Hi, everybody. Hi, sorry, I was waiting for some magic to happen, but I lost my space, so apologies. But this is my style already. I'm fast and loose like that. So welcome to series 2 of Holistic Emails, Email and More Q&A with. Every 2 weeks, we showcase a different topic and have different expert panelists join us. It's not rehearsed. We all know this. And the live audience get to ask us their burning questions about the topic at hand. And I was hoping to have a very juicy slide to show you.
It's happening.
Because we have visual aid now. Series 1, we didn't have visual aid. We upgraded. And here it is. So thank you. I really want to give a special shout out to our sponsors. And we're so happy that Series 1 proved to be so popular. And we're incredibly grateful for our sponsors that helped us get these valuable discussions to more marketeers. We want to give a special thank you to our gold sponsor, Iterable, and our 2 silver sponsors, RPE Origin and Email Expert. Oh, there's a bit of a lag, but if you did miss out on Series 1, don't worry. You can find that and many more on the whole series on our YouTube channel. There you go. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Adiola Sol. I'm the Senior Consultant at Holistic Email Marketing, and I'm your host and moderator for Email and More. With me today, I have Joe Crawford, who's the Global Vice President of Owned Digital and Orchestration at Pandora. That is a whole title. Joe, give me a wave. And we've got Dan Jack, who's formerly of British Gas and Dixon's. I mean, we've got some heavy hitters today. Dan, give us a wave.
Hello.
And we've got Philip Johnson, not Phil, who's a solutions consultant at Iterable. Philip, give us a little wave. And Kath Pei, CEO of Holistic Email Marketing. There she is. Now, before we get into it, I'm just going to pick some of our lovely panelists just to give a quick overview and a quick hello so you guys get to know a little bit more about our panelists today. So I'm going to start with Philip. You just want to give us a little hey-ho and tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Nice to meet everyone this afternoon. So I'm Philip Johnson. I'm a solutions consultant from Iterable, so based out of our EMEA office in London. Prior to Iterable, I was at Deloitte, so helping companies select and then implement what was usually a legacy marketing cloud platform. So I've got a bit of experience with both sides of the vendor selection process. With regards to my role at Iterable, I speak with prospective customers as a technical point of contact. So understanding kind of the business value they're trying to achieve, what are some of their technical pain points, and how we might facilitate addressing that through our platform. So that's a little bit about me. But yeah, really nice to meet everyone this afternoon.
Amazing. And since Dan, your mic is on, give us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Dan. Currently unemployed, but starting a new job with DMG Media on Monday next week, which is great. Yeah, formerly, as you said, British Gas and Dixon's. Before that, I worked for TUI Travel. I've started my journey with CRM in 2006, so sounds like ages ago, but it was a good journey.
Amazing. And Joe, do you want to give us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So I've been at Pandora for a year with the longest job title, as Adiola mentioned, that you couldn't even fit in a slide. Otherwise, it would take up way too much space. I'm currently locked down in Scotland, but obviously usually in Copenhagen, where Pandora are based. And before that, I was at Ralph Lauren, before that Mr. Porter, but this is my first kind of more broad role where I think we're looking at the more modern version of CRM rather than it being just attached to email, which has been exciting.
Amazing, thank you. And last but not least, Kath, please introduce yourself. Oh, you're a mute. Your
First
first mute
mention.
of the year.
Now, everyone's saying it's much better. Okay, is the sound still okay now?
Yes.
Because apparently there was feedback from my computer. Okay, so and you can hear me okay. Everything's good.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so yeah, I'm Kath, CEO of Holistic Email Marketing, and we're putting together this Email and More series, which we really hope you really enjoy. And we are a boutique consultancy, so we do lots of strategic things with our clients, all to do with email marketing and more, which is funny. Email and more. There you go. Yeah, but that's it in a nutshell. Oh, and I've just written a book. I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
That's a minor
The
detail.
plug.
I've just written a book as well. So there you go.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to get straight into it. So today our topic is about vendor selection. So the first question, which is I think everyone's burning question, is what's your advice to marketers that are looking to integrate their marketing tech stack? Now I'm going to throw this straight at Philip since he says he helps customers with the tech side.
Yeah, I think I walked into that one.
Yes, you did. Now help the people.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, really, and I guess the main reason why a lot of people are here. From my own experience, I'm sure maybe quite a lot of you are familiar with that infographic. With I think it's like 7,000 different marketing platforms. So we all know how difficult it can be with regards to knowing where to start. From my own perspective, I think there's 3 areas. So number one being value-based prioritization. So having that ability to kind of step back and understand from the lens of your business what's most important to you and what's going to generate the most value first. So whether that's increasing the lifetime value of customers, whether it's driving subscription revenues, and then understanding the technology you need to achieve that. Then really having that ability to be able to visualize everything you're trying to achieve. So surfacing actionable insights and using reporting capabilities to make sure that everything you're implementing is achieving what you're trying to do. The second point would be around aligning engineering resource. So I think we all know how busy engineering teams can be. They're usually the highest in demand, and they're working on multiple projects. So aligning them as early as possible and making sure that they have the time and resource to integrate whatever platform that you're looking at is key. And then really making sure that they scope the implementation well. So understanding kind of where all the data sits, how they're going to integrate it into the platform, and how they're going to action that. And then I think the third point, still kind of keeping my technical hat on, is making sure that the platform is technically flexible. So making sure that they are using integration technologies such as APIs, just to make it as easy as possible to integrate that the platform that you're looking at with your with your existing tech stack. Also making sure that in-app, but kind of looking towards the future, making sure that whatever stack you're building today has that capacity to integrate new channels later down the line, whatever they might be. So yeah, that was a lot of talking by me, but yeah, I think the main points for me is just really making sure that you're looking at value, aligning the engineering guys, and then making sure whatever you're building is flexible and able to be integrated with anything you have already.
I mean, that was such a robust answer. I don't know if anyone.
What do we say?
I'm sure Dan was like, I feel like you've taken all the best bits. Does anybody have anything to, right? Even I was like,
So making sure, like me talking client side, making sure that the new vendor will align with your wider marketing strategy, right? And another thing is, which Philip touched on, is building the right team as well, right? So you need to involve everyone from across the business, have every business function that will use a CRM tool to be involved in decision making, etc., etc. So it's all very important, but I think I would put a lot of pressure on planning. So the requirement is clear when you go out to the market, and then focus on your internal stakeholders. Because I made that mistake unwillingly, really, because I didn't really know who to involve, and I already had quite a lot of stakeholders being involved. But I think my last project involved around 50 people, so internal stakeholders. So just be cautious about who needs to be involved and why, etc. And make these right decisions at the beginning.
Who would be your top 5 stakeholders? I think that's quite a good point, because sometimes when you're doing that vendor selection, you are very, I guess, channel specific. You're looking at your own self in a silo, but you forget that there are other departments that would need to be looped in. So if you were to pick 5, who would you say?
First one would be IT, right? There's no CRM implementation projects happening without IT. So really building that relationship in the first place is a must. And then I think everything else on the kind of same level. So you've got sales, marketing, finance needs to be involved, right? Of course, customer support and services, call centers, etc. So it will depend on the requirement, but I would definitely go with IT as the number one stakeholder.
Right. Okay. Amazing. Thank you, Joe. What about yourself? What advice would you give our marketers looking to integrate?
I think it's thinking about what platform does what, because we're all getting almost too smart now, and we've all got advanced analytics teams and data science teams, and the role of the CRM platform, I feel like, is in the middle of pivoting, where we kind of wanted it to do everything. Maybe a couple of years ago, you wanted one that plugged into Google, that did your customer segmentation, that had the AI. And actually now certain businesses, and Pandora included, they've actually brought all that in-house. So we've got an amazing advanced analytics team. So you're then looking at the role of the CRM tool as, actually, I don't need it to do anything that smart in terms of creating the audiences or anything, but I need it to be user-friendly. And someone's popped a question in there saying, how do you approach a big purchase with agencies? And I think past the point of the agencies, how do we want to use agencies in general in CRM? Some companies are completely reliant on agencies, and they're charging, the nicest possible way, if there's any agencies listening, a fortune to build an email. And you're looking at it going, one, it's not agile, we can't be reactive, and teams want to be able to do that. So I also think that's a key piece as well of who's using the tool. Is it agencies or is it in-house? Because that will massively skew what you're looking at.
Amazing.
I've learned the hard way. I've got Adobe Campaign Classic at the moment, and nobody can use it.
Exactly. So we've got 2 questions coming, actually. So I just want to skip to one of them. And it says, has the buying journey changed as a result of COVID-19? How do you approach a big purchase when meeting the vendor is no longer an option? Does this mean you will now consider organizations that do not have a physical local presence? That's such a good question. Thanks, Andrew.
That's a tough question.
It's a tough question,
I think. Oh, sorry, go, Kath.
No, I was just going to just sort of put in there, but I think also then it's the time difference as well. It's the support factor. So, it's just them being available at the right time is a key factor as well. So they may not have a physical presence in the country that you're in, but at the very least they need to, be managing those time, those hours, so that you're being supported when you're using it the most.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because that's, especially when you have a global company and you have satellite offices, you really need to be thinking about partners that can make sure that they're to service everybody, because we know that email in a lot of ways is 24/7. And then I think the other part about whether or not they're online or offline. It's also looking at the size of them now, and maybe COVID's helping with that, where the big players would always get more space at events, or you would see them at places, so you'd always kind of know who they are, and everybody's having to be more inventive now, and I think that's really leveled the playing field, and you're seeing other people out there that you're like, right, okay, I didn't know about you. So I think that's actually quite cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think loads of businesses have had to switch how they work, especially even things as simple as buying a house now. Tours are virtual. You're seeing a lot of these email vendors have lots of different virtual conferences to kind of go take people through and discuss the ins and outs of their product, and giving them, real time information to help enrich that decision purchase, because obviously, yes, they don't have their reps visiting you in office and giving you the whole spiel, and probably taking you out for a really nice lunch at Wagamama's.
Wagamama's.
You're speaking to the wrong people.
Right? All I got was a Wagamama. So yeah, no, it's a good question, and I think it's definitely something that marketers need to start looking out for as well. Just not just looking at the big hitters, but looking at the smaller ones as well that are able to provide meaningful relationships and help guide them through that process. And I think this leads on really nicely to the next question: is do I need to provide a formal RFP, or can I just wing it? Who wants to Everyone was like,
who wants to take it first?
The former rather than the latter. It depends where you work. You can probably wing things in a smaller companies, but in the bigger companies, it needs to follow the formal process, I'd say.
See, if anything, it covers your back. See, when you do the formal RFP and then the guys turn out to let you down or whatever's happened, you've got paperwork there that you're like, actually, I did do a thorough RFP and this is what was promised and this is where you're at. So yeah.
I was just going to say, from my perspective, kind of similar to what you were saying, Joe, in that being able to have that paper trail of everything that you're looking for. I'm probably, I shouldn't speak on behalf of my A's, but from my technical perspective, I really like having that RFP, because you were able to see what it is exactly that they're looking for, and then making sure that whatever you're demoing or the features that are showing kind of align to that. We it's a bit of a plug, but we do have an RFP template. We do have an RFP template for any businesses perhaps that don't have one already. So yeah, that's
quite interesting.
Which is quite
you have the framework there already, so people can come and more or less slot what they need.
Exactly that. Yeah. So if you don't already have an RFP or a template, then we have one that you can use kind of as a basis to get you thinking as to what type of questions you want to ask.
That's really good.
Yeah. See, that's the whole thing. Back to what you were first saying, Philip. It's about it's the process actually helps you to think it all out, to understand your objectives, to really determine what your requirements are. So you're leading from a needs perspective rather than maybe a wants perspective. We've all heard, one of the big hitters, we want to go with them because then we'll be a big sender. It's got nothing to do with anything. It's like you could, So I think that formal RFP makes a lot of sense from that perspective. But then for the smaller, there are smaller companies here on board, and I'm sure that will be listening as well. Sometimes they don't have the resource, they don't have the needs, but even so, even if you don't have to go through the formal procedure, at least complete that for your own benefit. And even if you don't hand it out to them, then at least you're there and you're equipped with knowing what your needs are. So
Lovely. I think that's such a good tip, and it's really nice to know that there are models out there for marketers to use. And now, and you know what, to those that are watching live, if you do have a question, please feel free to just send it in. We are literally here to answer all your questions, and you've got such a great lineup of people, so utilize that. Get those questions asked today. There is no question too big or too small. So Beyond the functionality of the technology itself, an often overlooked factor is the post-sales component. So we're talking about CS, tech support, implementation, extracts, etc. How should this be taken into consideration when you are going into an RFP?
I think Kath touched on a good point earlier about one, just making sure they're in your time zone. But setting SLAs really at the start of, I expect something of this level to be responded to at this date, because we know that, we'll never learn as a business not to launch a private sale on a Saturday. Like we keep doing it. And you need a vendor who understands that's a level 1. I need somebody to answer the phone within the next hour. And even then at an hour, that's tough. So yeah, I think they're super important, and I think that's where winging it sometimes doesn't do you good, because you're not then thinking these things through and setting those agreements before you even get down to the conversations about joining.
No, exactly.
Yeah, no, I was just going to echo really what Joe and Kath already said. Being able to understand kind of what is the incident process, what's the availability of technical support is quite crucial. And as you said, Adeola, sometimes it's often overlooked. Sometimes people are focused solely on the tech features and the commercial element. I think another point is kind of beyond that initial integration, so beyond the implementation, trying to build a long-term partnership with that platform. So by that, I mean having your day-to-day users having that direct relationship with usually customer success. Customer success should almost be seen as an extension. This is me speaking from a business perspective, but CS should almost be seen as an extension of your team. So working in tandem to kind of help you achieve your goals. Some things that we've seen work quite well. We have like an internal Slack channel between somebody who's purchased the platform and our CS team. So they have that direct line of communication. And then also a feature I quite like as well is we have a community board as well. So if you're a customer of ours and perhaps you want to suggest a feature directly to the product team, then you're able to see what are other customers proposing, and then you have the option to kind of upvote that as well. So just having that, I guess being able to create a relationship beyond that sale and having a longer term relationship to help you achieve your goals, whatever they might be.
Yeah,
I think that sounds really cool.
I was just going to say about the customer success, right? I personally, whenever we're running RFPs for our clients, I try and bring them in, their account manager, the head of customer success, whoever it is that's going to be responsible for delivery, and I try to bring them in early. So if it's during the first demo, right? Because one, come on, I mean, I used to be a vendor myself, right? So, and I love you guys to bits. But your sales guys are totally phenomenal. I'm not saying just, or everyone's got phenomenal sales guys. And so you kind of want to hold them to a certain extent accountable, right? But also just give you that security and start that, as Philip was saying, start that building that relationship with them as well. So try and sort of pull them in, just request them. Hey, can we meet with, if you don't actually have a specific account manager, then ask to speak to have the head of account, come in and be part of that and just get to know them that way as well. So, yeah, we've all been catfished by a sexy account sales guy. Just the minute you sign disappears, and you're like, where did he go?
I was catfished by one that looked like Daniel Craig. I swear.
They're always really handsome
and like seriously tatted. I was like, yes, I'm signing up. And then
if I could just add to this, because Kath made a very fair point. The last RFP that we run at BG, we've started with actually chemistry session, what we call with procurement chemistry session, and we invited 7 vendors to meet them for 1 hour throughout the day. Every single one of them had 1 hour, and there was one team that stood out straight away because they brought all of these people in for the first session, because it wasn't like a proper sales pitch. It was a more of a kind of, this is us, this is our team, and this is how we can work together, and this is what we are bringing to the table. So 2 points, like, it's post implementation. This is extension to your team. These are not, never treated my agencies and as agencies. They're part of the team, and we working towards the same goal. And it's absolutely crucial to meet them sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it's maybe advice for vendors from a client side perspective. Sometimes it just feels like a sales pitch, and it's not very nice. And when you meet people and you talk about potential strategies and potential solutions to problems that we are facing, it's completely different. So I think that's the good relationship to start throughout the sales process, and just move it on into a post signature kind of stage.
I'm loving all of this, and I think our viewers have got some burning questions. I mean, the question section is on fire, so we need to get through this. Right. So Andrew has asked, as a company that operates a dual-sided marketplace, we need to maintain relationships with both B2B and B2C customers. Is it realistic to find a CRM/ESP that can handle both sides of the business, or should they be looking to find two separate entities?
I'd say I don't think it makes any difference. Probably the contact strategy will be different, and the content strategy will be different for both. But in regards to platform, you will kind of use the same functionality, so there is no big difference. So I wouldn't put a straight line between B2B and B2C, because it all kind of merges into one another.
Yeah, the main difference is the lead scoring. So and if lead scoring is important to you, then you're going to be somewhat limited, because not all platforms offer lead scoring, right? And they are more the B2B oriented. But good news is you can use them for B2C. So it's that's what I'd be focusing on. And again, only go down that if you really, again, just because you're B2B, you think, oh, I think we need lead scoring. If you absolutely know your strategy and you know it doesn't involve it, and that's not the way your business works and everything, you don't need it. Well, then, don't limit yourself if you don't have to. But if you do need to, then that's going to be a pretty key requirement from your B2B side of things. So,
I was just going to add, I guess, I very much agree that I don't see an immediate, it depends on your individual use case, but I don't see an immediate reason to use a separate platform for B2B and B2C. I'd even argue that definitely today, business customers are expecting the same experience that they do as a consumer. So having that level of personalization and being communicated across different channels as well. So I would argue that you would actually want to kind of keep it in the same platform. Also from a data perspective as well, it makes things easier. So very much agree with Dan that I don't see any reason why it should be a separate platform.
Okay, so hope your question has been answered. I feel like everyone is saying find one that can do the majority of what you need to do, and you can questions. This one I've actually been thinking about. So Alex has asked, how do you find the best solution in the sea of options? And how do you decide between big players like Salesforce that offer a lot but require strong technical expertise? Yes, Alex, you are very right with that. Versus smaller players that will be easier to use, more supportive, but not as developed, which is a good point.
I'm actually in the middle of this. So I'm currently doing an RFP. And it's the question that keeps coming up actually, is do we go with somebody big, safe, that you know, or do we go with someone a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit more risk? I think there's benefits and cons to both. It depends what you want from a partner as well, because sometimes if you go with somebody as big as Salesforce, you're just one of many.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not really going to mold anything to suit you. Whereas if you go with someone else, you get that real partnership, and you can help build their platform and say, hey, we really want this. And back in the day when I first met Kath and I worked for Secret Escapes and Exact Target still existed as what it was, we were a real strategic partner for them, and we used to go over and we built a lot of the functionalities together, and that was amazing. So I think the other thing as well is big players, I kind of call them, they're like brick and mortar retailers, where they've started off in a clunky old world of just batch blast emails, and then they're trying to modernize and they're trying to integrate, and they're trying to make sure everything's 360, and it's not. Whereas the modern ones who have been built in the digital age, they're actually a lot more agile, and they are built that way, and they are kind of ready to move with the times of what we actually need. So I'm casting a wide net.
I totally agree. So back in the day when we had EasyMail, we had some lovely clients who, it was, you know, like they're a big fish in a small pond, right? We were the small pond and they were the big fish. And we built features for them. And it, of course, it benefited us and the system and all the rest of our clients and everything like that. So, and that worked, and they absolutely loved it. And they were so loyal to us because of it. Then you've got, you know, the opposite effect, as Joe was referring to. So where, you know, you're a big brand, but they've got lots of other big brands. And I 100% agree with what Joe was saying about the nimbleness of the newer, potentially smaller, mid-market ones. You wouldn't, these guys, their features are phenomenal. They really are. They just don't have the big, you know, heavy weight names.
Sexy names.
Exactly, that the bigger ones do have, but they're a lot more nimble, they're a lot more user-friendly. Their data, as Joe was saying, you know, because having built one myself, I understand the complexities, just how the database and all the features and everything have been built. And a lot of them have also grown to the size they are with the features they are because they've acquired other companies. And so they're sort of putting it all in together, whereas the smaller ones, or, you know, let's call them mid players, they tend to, you know, have everything strategized and they build it and it's all, you know, original and everything. And we actually did at Holistic a couple of years ago, we actually did research. We did a survey of you guys, and we said, you know, and we were basically looking at the medium-sized players versus the big ones, and the more we could, you know, with more bespoke abilities with the mid players, and was, you know, sort of talking about the pros and the cons and everything. And so it's an interesting report. If you want to go on the website, you can have a look, and there's lots of different information on there too. So go check it out.
Amazing. So to recap, small is nimble, big is mighty. It's up to you.
I'm going to chip in just a little bit, but I appreciate that. I'm biased, but I think what I will say, kind of beyond Joe's point as well, Joe makes a really good point in that being able to build and having a strategic partner and contribute to those features is key. By removing my bias, what I would say when people are kind of looking at big players versus lesser known players is what is the use case you're trying to achieve? So being clear as to kind of what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then seeing how that platform is able to do that. Of course, in demos and through website research, you'll be able to get a certain degree to see how they can achieve that. But then even beyond that, having customer references as well. So perhaps the lesser known players, because they don't have a big name, what I would encourage people to do is reach out, or through them, reach out to customers, people of those platforms, so they can give you kind of an unbiased and customer
reference.
perspective. Exactly, a character reference. So even though big, and I think it's almost an advantage that we don't have these big conferences where it's who can spend the most money, and instead people can just be like, what is the use case I'm trying to achieve? Can these guys do it? Who can vouch for them? So yeah, that's my 2 pence.
And I'm not.
No,
I'm not
that was a
hating the
very
big
good 2
players,
pence
but they
spent.
are- the big players are reliable. I think that's their main thing. I think we all remember the days of cheetah mail where you used to hit send and you were just like, is it going to go out? Is it not? I don't know. So these guys are reliable and safe as well. So there's a reason why they are the big players. So it's not, we wasn't hating on them. But yeah, I think it's, you need to balance
Jo
everything
wasn't
up.
throwing any shade. She was just looking out for everyone.
Salesforce are like, blacklisted. We don't want her.
Right on. Okay, so we've got a question from, I hope I'm saying your lovely name right, Rui. Right, so the question is, do you consider that GDPR and LGPD, to name a few regulations, affects the way brands hire platforms to these purposes?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I would say if I made, yes, that's why I said, at the beginning, I said I would put IT at the top of my list of stakeholders, because they need to make sure that the data is secured, right? Because, once you get the data breach, that could basically take the company over the line, especially now during these, days, since we kind of lockdowns and stuff, not all of the businesses are working at the full throttle. So that might basically put the whole business at risk. So I would say absolutely all of these things, the data security, etc., everything that is relating to data and accessing these systems is very important. So yeah.
Yeah, it's another advocate for the big players, because they're more secure, or at least you hope they are more secure with their data, and they have more.
Yes. I don't think there is a role. Yeah, there is a bigger teams working in the background, with bigger players. But does it make them more secure? You keep hearing these things on the news every now and then. And it's just I think it's just depends.
Ooh, Dan is being controversial. We like it. Okay, does anybody else have anything to weigh in on that? Because I really want to give you Laura's question. I feel like we should rally together as a bunch of, experts and help Laura with this question. So Laura has asked this. We're potentially looking for a CRM provider. Go, Laura. And also having the big versus small debate. But we're starting from a low base and our requirements are quite basic. I'm reading it like it's Laura saying it out loud, So our requirements are quite basic at the moment. So it feels like all providers are on the table. So what would your advice be? Would you go big or go small?
I wonder if it's big versus small, or if it's just easy. If you're starting quite small and you're starting quite basic, is it something just really user friendly that you're looking for, that's a drag and drop that gets you excited with segmentation but not daunting? So I think I would maybe have a look at the demos and say, what one do I relate to most? What one do I find is really just easy to use? And maybe that's actually your best port of call.
And I think the main limitation will be budget for the big players come with a big price tag, right? So if you're thinking about, let's say, sending 50,000 emails every month, I wouldn't probably aim for the top range of providers. I would look somewhere in the middle, just making sure, as I said, it's secured, it's safe, and it gives you what Joe said, it gives you what you actually want.
And ask your colleagues.
Sorry, I was just going to say that the bigger the player, the longer the onboarding and the more intense the training as well. So if you're a small, you don't have necessarily the resources available to be, doing all of that. So I'd be going more for the small to mid players, and then looking ahead up to 3 years, because you want the system to be able to service you for at least 3 years. And then you can look beyond that. You might find out it's still servicing you fine, so and you're happy and you can stay. But then, you know, that's when you can make that decision. So that's the kind of period. Don't look towards 5 years or 7 or 10 even. You know, that you understand that you are going to be, you're small now, but you're going to be growing, and you're going to have great ideas. And whilst you're growing, your team will be growing, and then that's when you'll be looking. You'll have different needs.
And I'd say, I'd also say it's a balance. So as much as if you're kind of small, as Joe said, you want to be able to do the simple things correctly and perhaps not spend a fortune on a legacy provider. But at the same time, to Kath's point, if you're looking towards the future, especially if you have ambitious growth targets, being able, when you're looking at different vendors, understanding kind of the art of the possible. So, okay, at the moment, I'm going to be doing basic segmentation and some first level personalization on email templates and so on. But in 3 years or in 2 years, I plan on releasing a mobile app, and that's going to be front and center of my strategy, and also being able to access all of my different data points to create, for example, workflow. So yeah, very much a balancing act of not going for the super expensive feature-led things that you don't need, but then also thinking towards the immediate future. If you have like ambitious growth targets, making sure that you haven't picked maybe someone that's too much of an entry level player, and then in a year's time you outgrow them and you have to go through the whole process again.
I
love
really
it.
like
So
what you said.
Future proofing. Yeah. Future proofing.
He said that the art of the possible, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's still in the future, so there's a bit of an art there, because you're sort of going, well, we'd like to do this and this, and it still is possible. It's not defined yet. So that's good.
Nice. I really hope that has answered your question. And thank you. I'm glad I read it in the way that you would have said it if you had the chance to ask them yourself. I'm glad I did your question justice. So we've got a question. It's not actually, it is a question. It's been upweighted. So people really want to know the answer to this. Apparently, Joe, our catfishing comment has made people think about how they can appeal to ladies like ourselves. So Matthew has said it can be tough for small, medium vendors to get on the radar when they lack Daniel Craig lookalike sales guys. So do we have any advice for those who are lacking in the Craig department?
The Craig department. I think using your network of customers. So if you have a good relationship with somebody who's already a customer, speaking to them, because it's a small world and we all kind of know each other. And, you know, we're all kind of daunted at finding new vendors. So actually, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm working with this vendor, they're actually really great, would you like to speak to them? That works. So kind of good old fashioned word of mouth. And then also just avoid the cliche blanket LinkedIns. Because I think I have like 300 unread LinkedIns now of hope you're staying well and safe. And people call me John. They call me Joe with an E. I'm not replying to those people, so I wouldn't even waste your time on that kind of stuff. But good old fashioned word of mouth, it does work. And I will always recommend people, as Kath can attest, to others that I know that are new in a role, or my old team who are now managers. I'll be like, oh, you should get Kath in and get her to help with things. So I would go with that.
Word of mouth. So you don't need a Krieger. You just
exactly.
And I guess it's a question, maybe a follow-up question for Joe and for Dan. What's the most effective or what's top of mind when going through the process? Is it, as you say, Joe, going and speaking with people that you know have used the platform? Is it that initial demo? Yeah, kind of keen to get from your perspective, what's top of mind?
It's always the different things, actually. So one of the best agencies who called me and I ended up working with and spending quite a lot of money with, they sent me a postcard, but it was a luminous yellow, so you couldn't miss it when it came into my thing. And it was just like, we're going to change your life. And then it had like a few bullet points on why they were going to change my life. And I was like, it's bold. I kind of like it. And I think the more important thing is it cut through. I actually spent more than 10 seconds looking at it because I was like, what is this? Like, where is it? So I don't know, maybe thinking outside the box works. And we're going right back to the start now, where we're going word of mouth and print. I sound like I'm 50. I'm like, yeah, don't talk.
Yeah, you're like word of mouth and then send me gifts. Send me a notebook.
Cookies and muffins always go well.
Do you know what? One time a vendor sent a game, and I was like to my director, we've gotta get these guys in. They sent a game, like, so
Yeah,
you know,
the movable ink will do the gingerbread house at Christmas, where you get the gingerbread house and you can build it, and then you send it in for the competition. That's like a big deal. My team used to get really excited when it was gingerbread house time.
You see, this is
Easily
how,
pleased.
Matt. This is how you get new people when you don't have Kraigers on your team. You send us gifts or a gingerbread.
Anything small that we don't have to declare in our anti-bribery policies, you're fine.
Yeah.
A really lovely notebook or a snazzy pen that doesn't run out of ink like this one too quickly. So there you go. There you go. Problem solved. Now we have another question actually that's had quite a few votes. So people want to hear this. So the role of agencies in tech buying journey is essentially the crux of the question. Are you finding that more companies rely on agencies to pick a tech platform for them, or are decisions still being done in-house?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I would say
everyone wants to know.
The last RFP I ran was just based on internal people. So I built an internal team of stakeholders that made the decision. And I think that's the right approach. I'm not saying that maybe a third party might miss the whole concept of why we need certain tool and certain functionality, because they will probably do their research, but it feels like they will be kind of detached from the whole kind of bigger brand strategy or whatever it is that they won't fully understand, that permanently employed people would understand, or have on board, why thinking through the process and why you kind of go through the process. You might, and kind of shift the whole purpose of the project slightly,
Right.
or widen it or something like that, because you might think, oh, this is what we could do with this, right? When you know the brand. If you don't know the brand, it's kind of, I think it's a very technical approach. This is what you need, and this is what the tool will deliver for you, and this is how you use it, rather than kind of using it from a brand perspective.
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the company quite a lot. Like some companies, have strategic agency partners that are there, all year round. Ralph Lauren certainly did. That was how they worked. That was their format. So anything with that always had an external agency. And I wouldn't say to the extent that they made the decisions, but they certainly had a big voice in them. Whereas smaller companies, or maybe more modern run companies, I don't think you get that as much, and more of it is in-house. And if anything, you're bringing someone in as a support to really just challenge you, make sure that you're thinking outside the box, or you're thinking 3-5 years down the line. Like you were saying, the art of what's possible, making sure that you're not getting into your day-to-day of, I just need to fix this because it doesn't work. So yeah, I think as long as they're managed well, there's a benefit to them, but I don't think they should ever be making the decision. Like you say, Dan, you work with it, you know your business, and you know what you need to get to.
Yeah, very much the days of when you went with an agency and they had their tool of choice. Yeah. Right. And if you chose that agency, that then was the tool that you used. That's kind of a dying breed now. And most of the email marketing agencies that I know, they're all agnostic. They're all very, very good at using all the tools that are out there, and they will ensure whatever it is that you need to be done Even if it's impossible for you guys to do it, they will actually deliver it within your tool, right? So that seems to be more the common thing rather than, so, I think you're only going to come into that situation is if you've got a big history with an agency and they only use that one tool and that's their tool of choice, and then you kind of lump it with it.
Like their preferred user.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, agencies are a great resource, and you can always lean on their experience as they're going to be working with a breadth of different customers. So definitely good to sometimes lean on that expertise. But very much what Joe and Dan were saying, your business best. And I've been on calls and demos myself where sometimes, and I'm not saying this is all agencies, not at all, but sometimes just by the nature of things, they might have kind of a bias or a preference towards a particular platform. You want to make sure that, okay, you've absorbed and heard what they've said, but then you're also making that decision yourself, because it's you who's going to be living with that platform choice for the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years. So definitely lean on the experience, but make sure that you're putting your individual business needs first.
Yeah, definitely. And I would also add to interrogate everything. I think sometimes when you employ an agency to do things for you, you take a lot of the information as face value, as for what it is. And even if there is a little understanding, but you're not fully aware, you find yourself not really asking all those questions. So even if you feel like, I know this, but I need to know more, just interrogate everything, so that you are able to make the right choice. Because once, like Kath has said previously, once you do choose someone and you go through that whole onboarding journey of the data migration, that in itself is a very long process. You don't want to get that wrong, to then be stuck with a platform for the next 5 odd years, because you didn't interrogate enough. There's no harm in asking those tough questions. That's what the agency is there for as well. So if you do go for one. So really, I really like that. Does anyone have anything to add? I think we've got time for one more, and there's another question that has been upweighted. I feel like you guys are really active today, which is great. So we've got another question here. Hold on a minute.
The only thing I would add to that last point, Adiola, is think of moving your email platform as moving house. Like, you don't want to be doing it all the time. It's a pain. It always works out taking longer than you think it's going to be, and you get sucked into it. So if that means you use an agency, if that means you interrogate, just make sure you're comfortable with it, because like Adiola said, you don't want to get in and then you're like, oh, I need to move again.
Yeah, like I wish the dishwasher was integrated.
So true.
So, last question, I think, or we might have time for another one, but this one. I'd be curious to know how much of a voice the people responsible for content and creative have in the vendor selection gauntlet. I must say, not that much. In your experience, you mentioned a ton of technical factors. I feel like this is to you, Philip, but content is the end deliverable. So, do you feel as though the voice of those in content and creative actually is heard during the vendor selection? I really want to say no. But I feel like people are trying to loop them in more.
If you build your strategy out, first of all, then of course it's based on content, right? So it's going to be included, and therefore the tactics, the strategies that you need to be making sure that content is delivered, it's going to be considered. And that's what then the RFP is going to be kicked off based upon that strategy. So speaking as a strategist, I always go with strategy before technology, because the technology is what helps you.
But do you find the content teams in those meetings? I feel as though sometimes marketers think about the type of emails and the type of campaigns that they want to send out.
Do they want to be in the meeting? I think is the question as well.
I would agree with Joe. So in my last RFP project, we had people from marketing be involved, not specifically from the content team, right? Because kind of the content team is like different teams. There will kind of provide a content to align with marketing strategy. So it's kind of makes sense that not to involve, because it's a tiring process, you know. We all excited at the very beginning, but halfway through we completely knackered and we want it to end. And as you said, you know, it takes a lot longer sometimes than it should take. And so I would say, as to Joe's point, you know, do you really want to be in meetings? Do you want to spend hours, you know, every week talking to vendors and making a decision that isn't really kind of that crucial at that point, if you know what I mean? Not to disrespect all of my content colleagues, you know, they much appreciated, absolutely, but I think it's just maybe it's not the right group of stakeholders from my perspective to be involved in RFP. It's way too technical.
Yeah, I think to Kath's point, it depends on your strategy, right? Because we're going through a process at the moment where we are very much speaking to content because we want to move into dynamic content. And that has a real direct impact on those guys, where we're saying, hey, we now want 200,000 versions of the paid assets. Can we deliver? And they're all looking at me like I'm crazy. They're like, of course we can. So we're looking at the tech there of how do you do this and what does that look like? But then it's also the really boring side of things, which one of our content directors said, he's like, it's really dull, but they need to tag the content. That's actually the other part as well, because then if you do want to put it into the DSP, we need it to be female, silver, ring, all of this kind of stuff, which those guys aren't really interested in. So I guess it's more of a, do they want to be? What is the strategy? And then, of course, welcome them in. But yeah, it can be tough.
And I know. I think maybe I put kind of emphasis on, you know, aligning engineering resource and making sure you have like the technical teams lined up. But based on even I'm thinking to a meeting that I had last week. Once you're a certain point down the vendor selection process, then it is definitely critical to have those marketing and content teams involved in the process, because they're going to be using the platform day to day. So perhaps less on the data integration side, but hey, do you have a drag and drop editor? Or to your point, Joe, are you able to tag this template? And a lot of that drives the product team at Iterable. So those kind of small changes that perhaps not everyone's thinking about, but make a world of difference. So yeah, I've definitely been in calls where it's like, okay, now do a demo to the marketing and content team, and if you don't win them over, then you're not going to be able to progress. So I think whoever originally asked the question, definitely don't dismiss the marketing and content teams, because they're going to be using the platform on a day-to-day basis, and they're going to need to be trained up on it. So yeah.
Amazing, guys. You know what? This has been so good. Kath, there's a question from Mark, but I don't know if are we able to go over, or do I have to tell Mark I can't answer his question?
We can do it. We can do one more. That's it.
I got your back, Mark. So he asks, even with RFPs, most decisions are driven by emotion. Very true. But not all the time, but for me, yes, true. Do you all have any recommendations for removing cognitive bias coming from you or your team's previous decisions or past interactions with a vendor or channel? So how can we, decloud our eyes from the lovely batch of cookies that they sent us, or the amazing notebook with your name etched in it? How do we do that? Everyone is looking to the sky like, Mark, I don't know, because a notebook is always nice.
I don't think there is an easy, it's to do with you as a mature adult, understanding, briefing your team on the dangers of it. They've been reading some articles by a particular vendor and they're really, really into them, and they've got some emotional attachment because it's, they're thankful for the content. There's a whole heap of little subtle ones that can. And of course, that's why, it's the whole idea is to be building these relationships. So, again, I'm just going to go back to look at your needs, get that strategy happening really, and just nut it down and be hard. Be very strict with it and say, okay, these guys do awesome content or whatever it is, or they send us a lovely notebook, but at the end of the day, they don't 100% fit and meet our needs. And so that's it. But I think it's just being aware of it and being cognizant, of it.
Yeah.
I think listen to your team as well, because at the end of the day, you're going to forget about that notebook if you're working in this platform every single day and it's crap. I have a team of 12 people, and if they don't like the platform, like I might love it and I've got this amazing emotional connection to it. If they don't like it, in a month's time, I'm going to be like, oh, I just can't listen to them anymore about it. So sometimes that helps as well. If you have a gang of people, it avoids that emotional attachment.
Amazing. Any more? Or we're good?
I could just agree with
his
Joe.
Question.
I could just agree with Joe and Kath. It's very important to make sure that the tool does what you need. That's the bottom line. If it ticks all of the boxes, brilliant. If it doesn't, that notebook doesn't make any difference. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And
just, I think I'm literally just echoing what's been said already. So just understanding what are your individual needs. Sometimes what we've seen in the process that we run is because you have so many demos, so many filling out RFP questions, it's easy to kind of get lost in the weeds. So almost like having, whether it's like 3 sentences being, hey, this is what you're trying to achieve from a business perspective. This is how the platform can do it. And these are the features or these are the ways in which you can drive that value. So always trying to make it as simple as possible once you've gone through that complex process.
Philip started with his 3 points and ended on his 3 points.
Consulting hat,
Love it. Okay. Well, I hope that's answered your question. And I really do feel like we're at the end now. So that's all we have time for today. But I do want to thank everyone for attending this event live. Thank you so much. And to all of those in the future who will be watching on demand, a big thanks to you. And a huge thanks to our sponsors. And I cannot forget our lovely panelists for providing their valuable insights. So hats off to you guys. And for those who would like to stay on for a bit and have a little natter with us, we have some roundtables set up. So go and find a table, turn up, put your sound on, put your video on, let us see you, let's have a conversation, and hopefully we can answer some more of those burning questions in regards to vendor selection. Or if you just want to have a little chat, because we're all in lockdown, it's not like we've got another meeting to go to, come on through. So thank you so much. This was our second series, first episode of many more, and hope to see you guys real soon.